What's up? It's Marco, Sage of Soccer, and today I want to talk about a bit more about Olympic qualifying and how it seems to just be getting harder and harder for the U.S. team to make the Olympics. Because I was seeing an interview with Mikey Varis, the U20 coach, and really just looking at some things that are happening, and it's starting to look like European clubs will not be releasing their players for this CONCACAF tournament. It's a tournament that is, for some reason, scheduled outside of a normal FIFA window, as well as that, due to the World Cup being in November, European preseasons have been pushed up a lot. So that means that clubs, they don't have to release players for youth tournaments, and at this point, they don't want to. And well, for individual players, it's probably a good sign if they're not released, but it's definitely going to be bad for the team. And some of our top players are abroad right now, and it might end up really hurting. I mean, take a look at Canada, who have Luka Kolashu, the U.S. Canada dual international. After making a cameo in a dead rubber game, he's being called back to the team for preseason. Like, 1 minute in the last game of the season. Like, that's what you give, like, youth academy players who do nothing. Like, I'm not saying that's going to be Luka, but that's what you do. We have guys who are definitely higher up, like, on the food chain than that, and on the depth chart, and I think they probably aren't going to be there. I mean, I'm looking at our guys, and, like, Kevin Paredes, like, Wolfsburg spent a lot of money on him. They have a new manager who wants to see their new team. I don't think he's going to be there. Like, Alex Borto, Fulham goalkeeper, I mean, he's apparently third on their depth chart amongst goalkeepers. While that might not translate to him playing, you think they want him for the preseason? I definitely think they'll want him to be there. We got a Kobe Henry, who rumors he's recently transferred to Reims in France. Their manager's going to want to have a look at him. At Hoffenheim, Justin Che, he's probably going to be there. Mauricio Cuevas is going to want to impress at Club Brugge, Real Sociedad. If Jonathan Gomez would even come to the American camp, which I don't think he would, but Jonathan Gomez isn't going to be here. Rokas Puskas at Spirit in Croatia, he's really close to breaking into the first team. PSV's Dante Sealy, I think Sealy has a decent chance of actually being there, which, again, is probably more of a bad thing than a good thing, but that's not guaranteed, and we know that Ricardo Pepi's not going to be there. And all of these European players not being there means we're severely depleted at fullback especially, and probably our natural wingers as well. We have some wingers there, but none who really play there week in, week out. And with our fullbacks being weakened and center back being probably the weakest position in the team, like, we don't have a very strong defense, which means we'll need our good goalkeepers, but it doesn't look like that. I mean, Alex Borto, he might not be there. I don't think Chicago releases Gabriel Slonina. I hope that they'll release Chris Brady, but it's honestly not guaranteed. And then even the rest of the domestic players, like, I don't think Atlanta releases Caleb Wiley. San Jose might not release Cade Cowell. Seattle might not release Obed Vargas. And I've talked about this before, but I want to keep driving this point home because the Olympics could be very big for this American team, especially going into a World Cup that we are hosting. And for us to just self-sabotage ourselves like this, it drives me insane. I mean, at this point, our most likely team, I think, is Chris Brady in goal. Very solid player. Hopefully he'll be there. If he's not, we still have solid goalkeepers. Maybe it's Antonio Carrera. I think the RSL goalkeeper's injured, though. So I think Chris Brady's probably our best chance. Our center back pairing might be full strength. Maybe like a Jalen Neal, Brandon Craig. Like, I like both those players, but not really first team ready. Fullback, DC United's Jacob Green and Noah Allen. I really like Allen. Then going to the midfield, Daniel Edelman might have to be our sixth, who's a solid player, but, like, Obed Vargas is starting right now. He'd be much better. Midfield, Caden Clark, Jack McGlynn, maybe Paxton Aronson. Like, I feel good about those guys, but we really do lack, like, some physicality in that team. At wing, it's probably Quinn Sullivan and Diego Luna, which Quinn Sullivan's been scoring goals a lot for the U20 team, and he makes me feel confident, but I don't know if he's naturally a winger. And Diego Luna, another player who's very good in great form, but again, not sure if he's naturally a winger. And up top, with Pepe gone, Cal gone, Patrick Way is still injured. Like, it might have to be Paxton Aronson as the false nine, maybe Caden Clark. Maybe give Christian Fletcher a chance. We saw Damian Downs, Malik Sanogo earlier. Like, none of them really fill me with confidence. And we're going to need to beat Canada to get to the Olympics. Like, we're almost guaranteed to be facing them in the quarterfinals and the group stage, but it doesn't really matter that we face them in the group stage. And it's a Canadian team with players who are in Europe, who are far away, might be far away enough for the first team that they could bring a nearly full-strength squad, but I'm going to assume that they're not. Like, so let's say no Luka, no Justin Smith, no Antoine Copeland, and no Lucas Diaz. They still have Max Anchor, goalkeeper just made his MLS debut, Kashawn Ferdinand, Mateo Capagna, decent center back pairing. I'm assuming Noah Avitna is like far enough away from the first team that he'll be called in, and maybe like a Kobe Franklin. Probably going to be a flat 4-4-2 if they want to emulate the Canadian National League first team. So let's say Kosi Thompson, Zahir in the midfield, Jamal Marshall-Ruddy on one wing, Habachula on the other, maybe like a Lowell Wright, Mateo Bunbury up top. And that's a pretty good team. It's far from their strongest, but it's still a strong team. I'd say that they're slightly worse than the U.S. in defense. Like, I really like Chris Brady. I'd take Jalen Neal and Brendan Craig over those guys. I like our fullbacks more as well, Noah Allen especially. The midfield might be around the same level. Kosi Thompson has been doing pretty well in the MLS. Zahir as well, and I feel like Zahir counters this team pretty well. Like, we might not have anybody who can handle him. And then attack, I feel like they might just be better. Marshall-Ruddy looks really dangerous. Habs can really make things happen. Bunbury's maybe not him, but Lowell Wright, well, right now, because he's 2005, he's got potential. And Lowell Wright up top, he looks very good in the Canadian Premier League. So I still think this team is better, but is it enough better that if this team goes defensive, we can get a 1-0 win? We can seal the defense long enough. Like, it's not something where I'm really confident in us. And maybe this team could counter us and they could get a win. And it's not something where I feel like we're guaranteed to win. And then even after all that, we have to not slip up against like a Nicaragua, against the Jamaica or Honduras or Costa Rica, whoever it ends up being. Like, we have to beat all those teams in order to qualify for the Olympics. And with this team, it's like, it's good. I like all those players, but it could be so much better. And I think whatever it means for MLS clubs to get one more win, especially because it seems like European clubs who are not obligated to release their players, and I'm not even sure if I want them to. I'd like to get our guys in preseason, but man, it's just looking like it's going to be tough. I still think we can do it. I still think we're favored to do it, but it's getting harder. And yeah, that's all we're going to talk about right now. See ya.